We'll admit that they could have pulled off a miracle, learning to breathe underwater and setting up under the waves at the bottom of the ocean. It could even be that Atlantis isn't populated by people, but is a forgotten city filled with centaurs content to remain hidden for now. That being said, this particular specimen does seem quite into his hoof, making him more like a centaur dandy than what we can expect from the rest of the species. It's good to see him keeping up proper hoof care, but we think that his attention to his feet are overshadowed by that terrible tribal tattoo and space monkey buzz cut. For anyone who didn't get that reference, do yourselves a favor and watch Fight Club. We hear it's fallen out of style lately and wouldn't mind revitalizing a classic. Anyway, getting back on topic. That farmer's tan is pretty impressive in its own right, just adding to the juxtaposition between his human and horse parts. He's really at odds with himself, it seems, and we really hope this centaur can learn to love his human side the way he does his horsiness. With a little care from his groomsmen, he could be quite striking, but his servant's appearance doesn't really inspire confidence itself. He'd probably be better off on his own, but these two could just have one of those bonds that can only be understood by a centaur and its human. It's really touching when you stop to think about it, forgetting the whole, overthrowing the human race and forcing us into servitude thing. That's gonna take us a little while to get past, with no forgiving or forgetting happening in the near future. With Atlantis open for bidders, we could just make our way down there and call squatters' rights. That'll show those damn dirty centaurs who's boss. Number 4, Irish Centaur. Okay, so we took a little jab at the expense of the Irish here, but they're able to take a joke, generally being the first to point out their stereotypes regarding pasty complexions and susceptibility to sunburns. This centaur looks like one who, unlike our previous example, seems to have gotten the hang of the whole human grooming thing, being able to pull off a solid outline at the very least. He looks quite proud of his accomplishments, standing out in the sun to celebrate and show himself off. His legs are magnificently adorned with shin plates, and his coat is a pretty spectacular color, buffed to a high sheen. He really looks like he'd make one hell of a show pony, except for the glaringly obvious fact that he's basically white as a ghost from the waist up. His pale skin is so apparent that he's practically see-through, and we're surprised this guy was able to stand in the sun long enough to take a picture without turning a bright lobster red. He's gotta have some extra strength sunscreen on. If not, we suspect he probably had to power through multiple family-sized bottles of 100 SPF just for his first coat. His bottom half really needs no work, but his top parts need a vacation badly. We also can't imagine why a centaur would spend their time hanging out in a pasture when he could easily do whatever the hell he wanted. Perhaps he likes it there, or maybe he just enjoys being as far away as he can from water of any kind after his miserable existence in Atlantis for all those years. We don't know how long centaurs live, but we're willing to hazard a guess that it's much longer than humans, meaning they could be ancient enough to need a lot of time to stretch their legs. If he wants to run around on dry land for a bit, a pasture isn't all that great, but it certainly fits the bill and is as suitable a place as any. Hey, you never know. Some time out in the sun and doing whatever he's currently doing at his new farm home will probably give him the tan he needs to help match his opposing parts, becoming the centaur that we all know he's capable of being. We believe in him, and will even donate an egg timer to help him keep both sides even for the best tan he's ever had in his life. Number 3. Putin is a centaur in disguise. We can't believe we didn't think of something like this sooner, and it's just perfect. Putin considers himself to be a pretty desirable guy and seems to love posing on horseback, leading to all sorts of wonderful memes, almost all of which are banned in Russia, which should come as no surprise to most of you. The somewhat tyrannical ruler of Russia, Putin's looks definitely don't match up with his own body image, and we get that he's trying to look tough, but his claims of being a sex symbol are a long ways off with man boobs like those. His centaur replica is just what we'd expect from such a project, with the rose itself being pretty graceful, and the man himself sitting upright and looking for all intents and purposes like a guy who's in control, despite the man boobs, of course. We always knew something was off about Putin, and now we can put our fingers on it. He's gotta be a centaur sent to destabilize humanity in preparation for the eventual centaur sneak attack. That's really the only explanation here, with quite real proof right here to back it up. We don't know how he manages to hide his massive lower body from us when he's in his human disguise, but we're sure a guy with his kind of resources could pull it off. Although, we bet it hurts if he has to resort to a girdle to hold everything in. Putin being a centaur would explain a lot about his hatred of The animal kingdom is fierce and governed by one rule: survival of the fittest. When two top predators go head to head, the result can be spectacular, albeit terrifying at times. These 5 craziest animal fights caught on camera and spotted in real life are sure to impress and amaze you. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Lion versus Tiger. Both of these contenders are masters of their domains and can really throw down when they need to. This is probably one of the most impressive fights that can happen between two land-based predators, at least as far as we're concerned, and we managed to find incredible footage of a full-on battle between these two ferocious hunters just for you. Both lions and tigers hunt predominantly at nighttime, so it should come as no surprise that this fight happened in the dark. Even though the lion is much larger than the tiger, the match is pretty even throughout. The tiger's agility is definitely a benefit here, and it also seems to have more stamina than the bulky lion. After a brief tussle, they separate and play a game of cat and mouse, if you will, before diving back into it again. The lion does seem to do more of the chasing, with the tiger dancing circles around its rival and climbing out of range from time to time. During round 2, the lion shows its real strength and manages to remain dominant. The tiger, however, is one hell of a tough competitor and does a good job landing some solid hits and remaining mobile. At around the halfway point, the tiger regains its momentum and manages to pin the larger cat multiple times. Its adapted strategy involving attacking from behind and clawing the lion's back seems to be a winning combination. Round 2 ends with both fighters taking a break and regaining their composure, before the lion suddenly leaps at the tiger as it rests on its side, signaling the start of round 3. Once again, the two cats go at it, with the lion eventually managing to strike a final blow to the side of the tiger's head. This knockout punch sends the tiger to the ground, this time for good. The really disturbing part about this video comes at the end. After the lion takes the tiger down, it doesn't actually land a killing blow, but just walks around. Later, we see the tiger getting dragged up the bank by a rope, making it clear that this was potentially a staged pit fight put on for the sake of people. Then again, it could just be that researchers decided to study the tiger's body or try to nurse it back to health after its brutal ordeal. Unfortunately, we haven't yet been able to find out which of these two possibilities actually played out, but we hope that this confrontation was a natural fight between two wild animals and not just entertainment for some seriously twisted individuals. Number 4. Snake versus Gecko. Our next match is definitely a natural one and actually seems surprisingly fair. Both fighters are able to get the upper hand on their opponent, and well, anything can happen when the two meet in close quarters combat. If you look closely, you can see that the gecko has already lost its tail, probably during a previous fight, marking it as a deadly scrapper despite its small size. It's also got some incredible tricks up its sleeve and knows how to take advantage of the snake's weaknesses. You can clearly see this ingenuity at work when it leaps onto the snake's back and rides it around like a rodeo bull. The snake, in turn, tries desperately to shake it, but has a hard time moving around with all that bulk attached. It may look like a fun ride, but it's really a life and death struggle to the bitter end, with the gecko using its sticky feet to hold on for dear life. Its next tactic is to bite the snake's lower jaw, preventing it from being able to land a solid bite or actually eat him. The snake, in turn, has only one move, and that's to repeatedly try to bite the gecko. Its hope is that the gecko will eventually bleed out and succumb to its toxic venom before the snake is too tired to continue. This venom actually thins out the blood, shortening the time it takes for its victims to bleed out. Unfortunately for the snake, the gecko is able to shut blood flow off to certain parts of its body to a certain extent, limiting the amount of blood loss over time. It's also seen using its padded sticky feet to hold itself firmly in place while the snake tries to dislodge it and drag it away. Eventually, the gecko's vice grip on the snake's jaw is too much for its opponent to bear, and its attacker lets go, slithering off into the jungle. The gecko, in the meantime, was very close to losing the fight. Their oxygen supply isn't enough to maintain that level of activity, as well as constrict its blood blood vessels enough to put up a struggle like that for too long. After a brief but intense bout, they both end up separating, with the more peaceful gecko retreating to a safe distance to properly recover after its deadly ordeal. We're sure that's not the last time it'll have to defend itself in such a grave situation, but that's the way things are when you're as far down the food chain as these two fighters are. Number 3. Cat versus alligator. House cats can be quite intimidating when they're provoked, and many of us know just how quick their reflexes can be. While some cats choose to terrorize people with their specialty skill set, others choose to be protectors of mankind. The cat in this video is definitely of the latter persuasion, defending its territory and human friends like a boss. While the people in the area don't seem all that worried, probably because of the gator's smallish size, it's still a fairly dangerous situation to be in. If that gator were to sneak up on an unsuspecting person or pet, it would undoubtedly try to make off with a quick meal. That's where our guard cat comes in. Realizing that the gator isn't supposed to be there and poses a threat, the cat jumps into action and starts actively pestering the predator. The two stare each other down for a long time, with the cat refusing to budge. Its show of force was just what the situation required. The gator, after seemingly carefully considering the situation, retreats into the water, and you think that's that. Cat 1, gator 0. Turns out the reptilian interloper was just grabbing reinforcements. After a few seconds, we suddenly see another gator pop out of the water with its companion. The pair then begins advancing on the cat, trying again to intimidate it into fleeing from its post. The cat again refuses to budge, clearly marking the land around it as its territory. Eventually, the two unwanted guests wander back into the water and disappear beneath the surface. Now, that's something you don't see every day and makes for a great camping story to bring home with you. The guy with the camera then comments that this cat is actually actively standing guard, making sure that nothing bad happens in the campsite, confirming what we already suspected. That is one badass feline. If you'd asked us at the start of the video what we thought would happen, we certainly would not have expected this outcome. Even though the gators in the video were relatively small, it would still be disconcerting to go camping next to so many of them, and we can assure you that we wouldn't be caught anywhere near that particular campsite, even with that cat wandering the premises. Then again, it would be a ton of fun to watch a guard cat take on a gator and convince it to wander off and bother someone else. Number 2. Octopus versus shark. Number 2 on our countdown takes place not on land, but in the water. Some of the largest and most terrifying predators that roam our planet are found in aquatic environments, making fights between ocean predators a potentially nasty business. This one involves an underdog and a heavyweight champ taking each other on, with incredibly surprising twists and turns along the way. While this match took place in an aquarium tank and not in the deep ocean, it doesn't make this altercation any less deadly. It's commonly known that this particular species of shark, the spiny dogfish shark, enjoys snacking on octopi from time to time in the wild, with the idea of the opposite occurring being a little far-fetched of an idea for most. This doesn't, however, mean the shark will always come out on top, especially when they choose to take on a giant Pacific octopus, which can grow to enormous sizes like the one in this video. They've got some serious strength in those massive tentacles and are able to latch onto the shark with a vice-like grip. The most surprising part of this video is that the shark didn't actually instigate the attack. Instead, the octopi in the tank were actively engaging with their natural enemies and killing them without any provocation. Aquarium staff captured this footage after they found that sharks in the tank were regularly dying with no apparent cause. After this discovery, they decided to do some sleuthing to find out what the cause was. We didn't expect the octopus to be the culprit, and we can be sure that aquarium staff were just as surprised as we were when they saw the fight for themselves. While giant Pacific octopi are immense creatures, certainly more than capable of defending themselves from attack, their aggressive tendencies towards sharks comes as a real shock. We know they're prone to being grumpy at times, but this is a relatively new take on octopi behavior and will definitely have to be studied further. Number 1. Python versus alligator. Our final animal fight is an incredible event. Burmese pythons, like the one featured here, have recently made their way to the Florida Everglades and were able to quickly assert their dominance over most predators that they found waiting for them. The alligators found in the Everglade were its top predators until very recently, and they enjoyed being at the top of the food chain for an amazingly long time. Human habitation and climate changes have driven these snakes from their usual habitats further south and have forced them to give the reigning champs of Florida wildlife, the gators, a run for their money. Because the snakes are new, the gators aren't used to fearing them as the deadly predators they are, allowing the snakes to approach the massive reptiles and get in position without causing any suspicion on the part of their prey. It's a little nuts to think that these two animals would try to take each other on, given the fact that there are a lot more food sources. Could be that they're fighting for territory or are in dire straits, however, which would make more sense. The larger alligators do have an advantage over most pythons, and their bite is insanely powerful. Anything caught between those jaws really wouldn't stand much of a chance. Unfortunately for the gators, their death roll really doesn't affect the snakes that much, removing another useful weapon from their arsenal. This fight took hours with no clear winner emerging, which is known to happen from time to time during these engagements. At a certain point, both of them simply give up and go their separate ways, leading to a somewhat anticlimactic end to what is still a fantastic fight between two top predators. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button before you head out if you're new. That's all you have to do. Come on, just click it. I know you want to. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. I heard it gives you superpowers in the future or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. The world is filled with giants of the animal kingdom, with recent footage showing some real monsters. These 5 giants caught on camera and spotted in real life are bound to amaze you, and we can't wait to get started. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Snake Hoax. People went a little crazy when the internet produced a photo of this ridiculously oversized snake. Touted as the world's biggest snake, the picture was supposedly taken in the Amazon River in Africa. That's your first sign that something's a little amiss. The story goes that a crack team of Africa's Royal British Commandos hunted the snake for weeks, with the elusive creature managing to avoid them for the majority of that time. The picture came with reports that the snake was a danger to everyone in the surrounding area, having killed a whopping 257 people. On top of that, the snake was supposed to have been credited with taking out 2,325 animals, which is a pretty steep number. The team that captured it said it was 134 feet long and weighed 2,067 kilograms. That's one hell of a snake. At least, it would be if this story had any ounce of fact to it. The reality is that this was one of the internet's many hoaxes. It's one that definitely took off, inspiring fear in huge numbers of people who believed the story. If there was a snake of that size lurking around in this day and age, you can be sure that we probably wouldn't find out with some random picture and a story attached. This story has been disproven time and time again, yet it still keeps coming back to life. On top of the snake residing in the Amazon, in Africa, is the fact that the British Commandos haven't been around since World War II, making them an odd group to be hunting snakes. I mean, they may have invented a time machine back in the 40s, but we seriously doubt it. There are so many holes in this story, we're just gonna stop at that and call it a day. With all the hype that real giants on our planet can generate, we can't imagine why people are willing to go out of their way to try to fool people, especially if they can't get any facts right in their story. The good news, even if we fooled you with giant number 5, the rest are very much a reality. Some are fearsome predators, while others are of a more docile temperament. All of them, however, are massive examples of what Mother Nature can produce. Number 4. Giant squid filmed in deep ocean. We were amazed in 2013 when NHK and the Discovery Channel teamed up to bring us footage of a massive giant squid swimming around in its element. The deep sea expedition marks the first time anyone has ever managed to get the ocean predator on camera in its natural habitat and has been a huge benefit to science. The team used an underwater submersible vehicle to head as deep as 2,066 feet in order to get the shot, with over 100 dives logged. That's a ton of time spent underwater. As this sub wasn't remotely operated, the team had to physically cram themselves inside, equipment and all. Overall, they spent over 400 hours in the tiny sub, which must have been really unpleasant for those involved. All their hard work paid off, however, when they noticed something nearby around 15 kilometers east of Chi Chi Island. Once they had a target, they followed the giant specimen to as far down as 900 meters below the ocean's surface. The squid they filmed was around 3 meters long, which isn't anything to laugh at, but also isn't enormous by any stretch. The giant squid has been known to reach lengths far exceeding this. Part of the reason for its less impressive length was that the squid's 2 longest arms are actually missing, potentially torn off in a past fight. One of the researchers said that it would probably have been closer to 8 meters in length if the arms had been attached, which sounds more like it. Turns out that these squid will use other small squid as bait, holding onto them and using them to attract other prey. That's pretty cool, and it's interesting that they managed to film it with one such bait squid in its arms. The giant squid is elusive and difficult to track, with the only recording prior to this one taking place in 2006 after a giant squid had been caught and brought up to the surface. These monstrous predators in their natural environment would be incredible to see, but even in a submersible vehicle, we'd still feel pretty vulnerable. The largest recorded giant squid measured over 18 meters, which is enough to take on a sub and win if it wanted to. They do take on sperm whales and come out on top after all, making these giants terrifying when they want to be. There has been so much speculation as to whether or not there are multiple species of giant squid, with no definitive answers so far. Evidence currently points toward just one species in total, but many scientists think that more could lurk out there, hidden in the depths. Number 3. Whale Shark Haul. A group of fishermen probably expected a good haul when they set out, but nothing like what they eventually came back with. This massive plankton eater is the largest species of fish in the entire world, but was done in when accidentally caught in the trawler's nets. The team said that the fish was still conscious and alive when they first pulled it in, but it unsurprisingly died a few hours later when they were able to bring it back to shore. The scene was met with large crowds, with huge numbers of people hoping to catch a glimpse of the monster as it was hauled onto the docks. The fish took 2 industrial cranes to lift it safely ashore, as well as a lot of effort. Even though the whale shark is listed as an endangered species, they're still hunted in many parts of the world and can fetch quite a high price all told. This particular whale shark weighed over 15,000 pounds and measured an insane 36 feet in length. The largest ever recorded was a little over 40 feet, making this an exceptional specimen and one of the largest ever found. Although it was a little on the lean side, with the average weight of a whale shark coming in at around 19,000 kilograms. Some claims have been made that whale sharks over 50 feet long are not uncommon, but none have yet been officially verified. While this is still somewhat small compared to other giant creatures, such as the giant squid, it's still worthy of note. The fish is so big that a group of people are even able to stand upright on top of it while they try to get the ropes in the right place. That's a lot of bulk, although those workers are pretty bold to be standing there. That would certainly be a weird sensation, even with the whale shark dead. It's sad to think that people still actively hunt these magnificent creatures, with this case being even worse because it was completely accidental. It's a good thing, however, that these giants aren't a threat to humans, or we'd have a serious problem on our hands when it came down to what to do with the whale sharks. We'd rather not think about it. Number 2. Black Sea Hare. Slugs are pretty gross, right? They don't seem to offer much and leave a trail of disgusting mucus wherever they go. Plus, they can be hell on your flower beds. Sea slugs, we want to say, are even worse. They move far more quickly and grow to disturbing sizes underwater. If you're like us, you can't stand them. This next video features a guy who seems to enjoy these weird giants. Aaron Sanchez is a tide pool expert, which means he likes to run around on the coast looking for odd creatures and other crocodile hunter-esque exploits. In this video, he's looking for black sea hares, which can weigh up to 30 pounds and are basically enormous black sea slugs. The host, named Coyote, gets way too excited when Aaron spots a sea hare and dashes over for a closer look. Taking things even further, he picks it up for everyone to see and reveals a black mass of something. If you were looking for evidence of alien life on Earth, this would probably feature in your catalog. The black sea hare is disgusting, and while somewhat resembling a snail or slug, really looks out of this world. Moving it around in his hands, you get a sense that this animal is straight out of a horror movie. Prometheus rings a bell here, and we wouldn't want anything to do with it. Thankfully, these things aren't found all over the place, unless you live along the west coast, in which you'll probably be familiar with them. They're called sea hares because of their antenna-like appendages, which are said to look like rabbit ears. We don't see much rabbit in this bizarre animal, but we're gonna take that in stride. We're honestly too busy being grossed out while being unable to look away. If this mass ever came at us while we were swimming, we'd have a heart attack right then and there. We're sure this species of sea slug, unlike some others, doesn't move very fast, even in the water, but we wouldn't be willing to test that theory in practice. When placed side by side with another species of sea slug, you can immediately see that the Black Sea Hare is an absolute Goliath of the slug world. These guys also sometimes squirt ink, much like a squid, when provoked or attacked. But the Black Sea Hare, thankfully, isn't able to completely douse you as it doesn't produce any ink itself. Number 1. Deep Blue. The most ferocious giant on our list today, Deep Blue is a great white shark estimated to be around 20 feet in length, with a fiery attitude. The great white revealed herself to the world off the coast of Guadalupe Island in Mexico during a cage diving expedition. Cameramen inside the cage were astounded by her sheer size and said that even though they knew they were probably safe, they were definitely a touch worried during the ordeal. Everything went off without a hitch, and even if they did have jitters, you can't really tell. The footage they captured has been incredibly informative and a huge benefit for anyone interested in shark research. It turns out that Deep Blue was pregnant at the time of the attack, adding to her size. That being said, a 20-foot great white, no matter how big, is still able to cause some serious damage many times over. Great whites usually only reach around 15 feet in length with a mass of around 5,000 pounds, meaning Deep Blue is well over average. She's also fairly old, with estimates putting her at around 50 years, which is impressive to say the least. We haven't heard much about Deep Blue since the footage, shot in 2013 and released in 2015. We can't wait to find out more about this giant ocean predator in the near future. There's every chance that we might never see her again, with the ocean being as large as it is. Sharks are protected in the area where Deep Blue was first discovered, meaning that she does stand a better chance of avoiding poachers, but shark migratory patterns crisscross the globe, potentially taking her to more hostile or hard-to-reach environments. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button before you head out if you're new. That's all you have to do. Come on, just click it. I know you want to. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. I heard it gives you superpowers in the future or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Many people see the Bloody Mary fad as nothing more than an urban legend. Others, however, have taken it upon themselves to test the theory out and film the results. These 5 Bloody Mary sightings caught on camera and spotted in real life are certainly entertaining, and we think that they're absolutely perfect for today's countdown. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Big Sister Sub-In. This kid is all set to prove that Bloody Mary isn't real once and for all. He seems like a skeptical little kid, but still down to try things out, if only for the sake of science. His friends are happy to egg him on, and they're all quite excited to see what happens. They have a go at a first run through, turning the lights off and filming themselves repeating Bloody Mary 3 times in the bathroom. They wait for a bit, with nothing strange happening at all, then decide to do it again. They get ready by turning the lights off once again, bracing for whatever's about to pop out at them, and repeating the words Bloody Mary 3 more times. After a brief wait, they turn the lights back on, somewhat disappointed that their trick didn't work. We don't know how they expect to pull malevolent spirits out from wherever they happen to be and drag them into our world for a kick, but they seem to be failing at their attempts to do so in this particular bathroom. They declare that nothing's happened, deciding to try one more time. The lights go off, and this time the kid repeats the words very slowly, making sure he gets every Bloody Mary in there and with feeling. Nothing seems to happen until the lights turn on and you see a figure stood over the kids, seeming to appear out of nowhere. They all freak out, and the first kid begins bawling out of control, terrified out of his mind. It turns out that Bloody Mary was just his sister with tape all over her face, having some fun at their expense. The younger kids are obviously pretty worked up by the entire scene, tearing all over the place and running for cover. The camera ends up being held down at this point, with it eventually being shut off. We don't know for sure whether or not the sister figure here was in on the prank the entire time or just saw an opportunity and ran with it, but we applaud her for thinking of pulling it at all. The tape wasn't expertly done, with her mask, if you can call it that, being a little underwhelming. Her timing was spot on though, and she knew her marks well enough to know they'd end up falling for her stunt. Some people might see her actions as mean, but we know that it was all in good fun and that she didn't seriously scar any psyches that day, although it might have taken a little extra time to calm some of those kids down afterward. They, in turn, got exactly what they were looking for, a quick scare and a video worthy of uploading. So it's win-win all around. Number 4. Public Bathroom Aftermath. Another solid video comes from YouTuber YOLOcraft and starts in at the same point the last video finishes up. It doesn't mess around with any lead up and jumps straight into a nightmarish scene depicting a pretty vicious haunting. The guys in the room have obviously turned the lights off, flicking on their camera's night vision mode to get a spooky scene of what looks to either be a locker room or a public bathroom. A woman in a hospital gown is stood facing the corner, shaking from head to toe and cowering with her back to the rest of the group. One of them asks the other what to do and is met with not much of a response. They train the camera back on the girl in the corner, revealing her still standing there. That's when she slowly turns around to face them. She looks relatively normal at first, until you notice her sunken-in eyes ringed in thick, dark circles. She looks fairly surprised as she turns around, but her face morphs all of a sudden into a hideous shape, her eyes and mouth both opening up wide and becoming pitch black. The footage then gets a little grainy, showing signs of interference messing up the picture. You can't see much, but it's clear at this point that the guys are bolting for the nearest exit, clearly terrified about what they just saw, as would anyone be if we're being honest. The camera cuts as they're bolting through tiled rooms, trying desperately to get away. This video definitely seems fake, but it's just credible enough to fool the unwary, meaning we had to feature it. This footage was edited quite well, and we dig what they did with the girl's face. This is yet another Bloody Mary video, but the uploader suggested it could be a demon as well. We liked what we saw and figured we'd share it with you, letting you decide for yourselves if this video is real or not. If you think it is, we'd love to hear what you have to say and whether you think these guys got footage of Bloody Mary or some other as yet unknown demon. We're always up for keeping the conversation going, and we do like being proven wrong when we get a little too skeptical about certain things we see. Bloody Mary or not, this video is spooky looking and does its job quite admirably while sowing the seeds of doubt for Bloody Mary non-believers everywhere. Number 3. Extra Steps for Success. Our next clip comes from Derek Hovenkamp, who decided to have some fun with his kids and put together a Bloody Mary video. He'd heard about all sorts of spooky stuff happening and seen YouTube videos about Bloody Mary in the past, and figured he'd put it to the test and see for himself. He's obviously not looking to scare his kids out of their wits, instead hoping to have a good time and build some memories together. Uploading the video and sharing it for the world is another awesome dad move, and we think those kids are gonna grow up pretty happy. His son was worried that they needed a girl with them for protection, with Derek doing some further digging and finding out the best way to call Bloody Mary out. They searched all over the internet and put their plan together, getting ready to see what their preparation was able to achieve. He also found that a candle will help bring her out more safely, but without one in the house, they had to soldier through. They get his oldest son to look in a mirror and walk backwards up the stairs, looking into the mirror as he does so. The other two kids stay put and simply watch, too scared to take part themselves. This is a new take on the Bloody Mary story, and we kinda like that they're using a hand mirror and adding extra steps, instead of simply huddling together in the bathroom like we see in so many other videos. His son eventually makes it to the upstairs bathroom after supposedly helping to draw their quarry out and entice her to make an eventual appearance. In the bathroom, the lights are turned off, and his son repeats the words Bloody Mary 3 times. He says at the time that nothing at all happened, proving Bloody Mary isn't real. He even gets the whole gang together to show them there's nothing to worry about. When he uploaded the video, however, Derek mentions that his son had noticed something strange in the video after they watched it again. When they emerge from the bathroom, you can see a figure stood in the corner of the bedroom, staring back at them the entire time Derek bashes the myth for being a fake. It could very well be another hoax, but a lot of people are convinced that this is a true Bloody Mary sighting, albeit a little after the fact. This video is one of our favorites by far, and we've got to give a shout out to Derek and his entire family for putting together an awesome Bloody Mary video that's just believable enough to make us think twice about being so skeptical about these sorts of things. Number 2. When being proven wrong goes wrong. When Nick was looking for a way to impress his viewers and also do a public service by proving the ghosts aren't real, he seems to have stumbled upon something that's made him question the way he approaches the supernatural and paranormal. He goes over the whole Bloody Mary recap, getting his candle lit after he declares that he thinks this whole thing's a little ridiculous. The word he uses is stupid, but he's a great guy and down to suck it up for his fans, which we think is pretty cool. He's got his camera set up for night vision so he can record any strange occurrences, or we suspect, to prove that Bloody Mary isn't real once and for all. He then gets ready, kills the lights, and repeats the terrifying phrase 3 times out loud, just like all our other videos. His night vision isn't all that good, unable to pick up anything strange at all with the lights out. He then turns the lights back on and faces the camera to declare that nothing happened and ghosts are stupid. There's a strange figure with her hair over her face and dressed in a white robe behind him, not moving at all. During his victory speech, she reaches out and touches Nick on the shoulder, dropping him instantly. The feed then cuts, with the strange woman still standing there, being pretty spooky if we do say so ourselves. The only question we have with regard to this video, after Nick brilliantly proved himself wrong, is who the uploader was and why Nick's still, well, alive. We assume that she simply made him pass out instead of killing him outright, which is a pretty nice thing for such a terrifying apparition to do. Once he came to, we're sure Nick looked over the footage, realizing what had happened. We're thankful that he was able to prove to the world that Bloody Mary was real, and we hope that he didn't suffer any permanent damage from his encounter. We'd like to hear what you have to think about this video and whether or not you're convinced that strange things can happen in bathrooms when you turn the lights off and repeat Bloody Mary with reckless abandon. Number 1. Bathroom Shenanigans. Our final video is just kids being kids, with a group of housemates setting out to record their very own Bloody Mary video. It's not quite as polished as all of our other videos, but does have its moments, mostly within the first few seconds. The heroine of the story starts by proudly stepping up to a mirror in a bathroom, turning on the light with purpose, and repeating Bloody Mary 3 times in a row. Nothing happens for a second or two until a figure rises up from the bathtub, scaring our main character out of the bathroom. The figure leaps out of the bathtub to pursue her victim, revealing a disheveled Bloody Mary in what seems to be pink pajamas, giggling her way through the house. The video is clearly a group of students messing around, and we thought we'd finish our list today by lightening the mood and adding a few giggles to our countdown, instead of featuring nothing but screams. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button before you head out if you're new. That's all you have to do. Come on, just click it. I know you want to. Oh, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. I heard it gives you superpowers in the future or something. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. The concept of the Hellhound has been passed down as lore for generations before us, and people's fascination with them, one could argue, is more intense now than ever before. They've made their way into popular culture, being featured in novels, TV shows, and movies with reckless abandon. These 5 hellhounds caught on camera and spotted in real life are a mix of ridiculous hoaxes and interesting footage that could be the key to unlocking the mysteries surrounding hellhounds and whether or not they actually exist in real life. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Kentucky Reality TV Sighting. The TV show Mountain Monsters has made claims about catching a real-life hellhound on camera, although we're left wondering if these people even know what a hellhound is. They're hanging out in Kentucky to review reports of hellhounds terrorizing farmers and taking out their animals. The Mountain Monster team decided to head out and take a look, despite clearly not knowing what they're looking for or what to expect. They take a look at the footage that the farmers have to show them and decide that this isn't any regular animal sighting. What it looks like is the farmer got his buddy to put a suit on. We'll admit that it could be some kind of large animal, but definitely not a hellhound. Not quite ready to face a hellhound, they set out anyway and start their search, wary of any kind of noises, which are pretty numerous in the country. They scour the bush for a bit before they come across the back of a shed and see a huge figure lumbering along, apparently oblivious to the person right next to it. They really found themselves a stupid hellhound, that's for sure. The show itself, funnily enough, doesn't actually show any of its own footage because the team didn't actually come across a hellhound. That's probably because they weren't actually looking for a hellhound, which wouldn't waste its time on farm animals in Kentucky of all places. The show finds the group eventually walking around at night and hearing a deep growl by a pile of wood. They decide to check it out and claim to find blood. They're able to immediately decide it's not deer blood, making this group of hillbillies one who seriously goes by Huckabee, incredibly slick detectives. We didn't know that deer blood was all that different than any other mammal, but hey, they've got the gift. They keep saying that they hear this thing, with a random pile of bones found in a shed being proof. We doubt the truth of these claims because we're pretty skeptical about these shows to begin with. They need interesting footage and to play things up, adding some props here and there, along with a little editing magic tossed in for good measure. Without a little suspense, the ratings just won't keep them on air, and they'd rather keep their show running than focus on pesky things like facts, or in this case, lack thereof. Number 4. Hellhound, a short film, kind of. This is great footage that was put together by what seems like a few amateur filmmakers. While the situations aren't real, they do actually look much more realistic than just about every other hellhound sighting video out there, and we thought we'd add it in to show the pretenders how a real editing team does it. Still, they're not that great, and this clip isn't going to be winning any Emmys anytime soon. Titled, "What Happened to Claire and the Truth About Demons," this video shows a woman who we assume to be Claire deciding to head down to the basement after some other guy states that it's a bad idea. Despite the fact that it seems to be truly terrifying down there, he's acting like it's no big deal, warning them off it the same way you'd tell your friend not to get that big bottle of tequila because tequila makes him crazy. Basically, he sounds like he doesn't want to deal with it, but thinks someone should do it anyway because he's interested in the end result. So Claire proceeds to head into the basement and gets attacked by a hellhound. She beats it off and heads back out for more bad acting and terrible plot lines. The movie ends with her buddy being taken out by the hellhound, with Claire barely making it out in one piece. At least this group decided to use their footage to put a movie together instead of trying to fool the gullible by posting it online. There's a ton of hoax material out there, and sifting through all the poor attempts to get at the clips that do have a little merit can be difficult nowadays. That being said, we plan on plugging on and getting back to where we should be with yet another hellhound sighting, this time uploaded by some kid who decided to investigate some odd noises that he keeps hearing. Number 3. A convincing encounter? This footage starts with the guy taking the video explaining that he's heard some strange noises outside his car and has decided to check it out and see what's going on for himself. He readies himself and heads outside to wander around and see what's up. He walks around for a few minutes, pausing every once in a while to see what the deal is. He keeps